What's up, everyone? I'm here to do the latest chapter of Toriko. Now, I realize the next chapter is probably going to be released very soon, today, if not tomorrow. So I'm like a week late. But I did read this chapter when it was released on the day of its release. It's just, again, time constraints. So let's get into this chapter. It was very simple. It's titled A New King. It's 290. Latest chapter, Toriko. First off, again, as I voiced in my last review, very interested in this whole dynamic of what the heck went on with Komatsu. Obviously some sort of power up thing. I think we've seen something like it in the Bishokukai already. But ultimately this chapter can be summarized in one sentence. They opened the fruit, the horse king Heracles didn't kill Toriko, he ate the fruit. Now they've birthed a little tiny horse king who has now galloped over the rainbow. Kind of sappy, kind of somewhat strange, but I do like how Toriko draws it and describes it. It's still kind of sappy, but hey, Toriko makes it a little more gritty for the audience that we are. If you guys don't know, Toriko is in that genre of manga called shonen, which I believe means like four guys or something like that, four men or four boys. So you get the idea. It's four people, mainly males, who like this sort of fighting stuff. And so, okay, let's just go through the chapter real quick, play by play, after summarizing it. First off, again, I just really like, if you just go through this chapter again and just study and admire how everything is drawn and organized and how the panels are, it's just very unique. You know how American comics are. It's somewhat like that, but it's a lot more cleaner. It's first off, it's a lot more vertical and horizontal versus American comics, which are, they're sideways and they're just somewhat gimmicky and childish. This one's more mature, and I definitely think it's drawn quite well, more professionally. And this chapter, I just looked at page 4, where you literally see like the air like blossom into the sky and push away everything, and then you see like the sunlight beaming down and like all the wind, and then all the characters just lined up in a line watching. It's just very well done, very well drawn. And then just studying the next page, where you see like you see a zoom up of Toriko, and you literally see the hoof of the horse king come down on Toriko. It's just very well drawn without even looking at the words. But again, moving on from this amortization, the whole thing, I found it somewhat gimmicky, this whole idea of the horse hoof stopping like inches before Toriko and then him moving away towards the air fruit. It was somewhat gimmicky, but at the same time, I can understand it from a logical perspective, because I can argue it from the perspective I'm against. My perspective is just, it doesn't really make sense. Like, if you're so strong and so fast, and you have so much energy, why couldn't you take like a split second more to finish this guy off by moving your hoof like a fraction of your whole body mass down a little bit more and kill Toriko? Obviously, most people are on the opposite side of that because of ulterior subconscious motives. They don't want Toriko to die, so they're probably like, how could you say that? We don't want Toriko to die. Or, well, if you look at it from the Horse King's perspective, as in the narration, the air from the fruit was just so strong and he had not experienced it in many years. And even as demonstrated in the narration, the Horse King had waited tens of thousands of years for it, so everything else was out of the question, including killing this mysterious person, because now was a once in a millennium life chance to give birth, blah 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 blah. Again, it somewhat makes sense, so I can understand it, but at the same time, somewhat of a cop-out at the same time. I just wasn't that into it because it just seemed unrealistic. And so here's something that was finally revealed and clarified in this chapter, which was the fact the Horse King doesn't actually eat the fruit, or at least it doesn't seem like he does. He just sucks up all the air that's released from the fruit. So it's very, very interesting. And on top of that, from what I deduced and explained and inferred from the last few video reviews on Toriko, I thought that this time the fruit was prepared at 100% effectiveness, and that was never done before. We all know the blue nitro prepared it at 80%, but before that, I feel like naturally, before the blue nitro arrived, it probably wasn't prepared at 100% naturally. So I really want to see what happens in the next chapter to see if the Horse King pays any respects towards Komatsu and the gang for preparing it at a taste level that the Horse King himself has never experienced before. But regardless, I just found, I'm looking at this page 8, and it's amazing, this whole thing where Horse King just sucks it up, all this air. At the same time, all the air blowing from the fruit is just like pushes Toriko away. It's like a freaking hurricane. But having said all that, again, I do have to note one thing. At the start of this chapter, they made some, again, you guys know how I am, they made some very unrealistic claims about how much metric tons of air was released from the fruit and at what rate and so forth. I'm not going to elaborate on it because I've done it numerous times before on other plot hole loops. But I think, it's a fun little manga at this point. You can't take it at face value. From a physics perspective, it's not realistic at all. But, it's very clear in my opinion at this point that the author is just making up really big numbers to sound cool, and he hasn't really studied a physics course. But again, the point is it's pretty awesome. So then we got this light shining down, and again, page 9, amazing in itself. This whole thing where Milk the First is like, I can hear my kitchen knife and the knife my apprentice made being used. The voice of the kitchen knives. It's somewhat, very awesome in the fact that it's like how Komatsu can hear the food, but because this guy's a knife expert, he can hear the voices of the knives. Awesome, really. And I mean, again, it's a very simple chapter. They see the enormous rainbows, and then you see all these, all the horses just standing there in awe, waiting for that moment of birth. And by the way, again, I've said this before, but I just very much admire all the horses, the variants with which each of them are sort of drawn and how different they are. You've got unicorn horses, zebra horses, some of the zebra horses, and dinosaurish horses with spots have wings. Some have a horn. Some have 2 horns. Some have rich flowing hairs. Others have stark hair that's hard to move, that's coarse. Some horses have like moss on the hair. I just think it's really well drawn. So much variance, and all the horses are different sizes too. And again, there arises that question, like, where did all these horses come from? Were they just like failures that the Horse King Heracles birthed throughout the century? But finally, we get this final like depiction of the birth of this child Horse King Heracles, which begs the question, what happens to original? Does he die of old age? And like, first off, it just depicts everything in a different way. First off, that baby horse looks huge, or maybe just how it was drawn, Horse King Heracles looks a lot smaller than it should be. More so than that, he's drawn differently. This time he's very much more depicted like a dragon. You see the 6 to 8 spikes on his head. It's very similar to how a dragon is drawn, and it's just very similar to a dragon. So the chapter ends in just 14 pages with the horse galloping off into the distance. A very short chapter, but you know, it's a great end to an arc, and it's very much how Toriko does its stuff. So let me know in the comments what you thought about this chapter, what you liked or didn't like, and we'll see what happens. The next chapters should be released today or tomorrow if there's no holidays for Toriko. So 291 should be coming out very soon. And I really want to know what your thoughts on this is. Do you think it was a too much of a simple chapter, too much of a cliche ending to a somewhat cliche arc? Do you think this was a good arc, a bad arc? It seems to be the end of an arc. As I've mentioned before, it's kind of like Pokemon. They have numerous continents. Each one has a badge. They've now almost completed the badge of this first continent, which is preparing the air fruit. Now, if everything goes to plan, they'll be able to eat it, share it with the village, and move on. I would like to see something different, like maybe the blue Nitro appearing and stealing it away, or some fight ensuing. That would be better, because this is just, I felt it was too cliche, too simple. And I can't even rate it because it's just like a short ending to an arc, so it's not even worth rating. And I thought it was, more or less good, but nothing spectacular. Nothing compared to the Colosseum arc. Let me know in your comments below, and as always, share this with your friends, share it in groups, share this video everywhere you want. As always, like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching.